Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another video about the ins and outs of college esports recruitment. As always, my name is Mark Deppie. I direct the UCI esports program. Today, I'm joined by one of my closest colleagues who's super involved in the recruiting process, Miss Hillary Fan. I'm going to ask her to introduce herself right now.
Hi, as Mark mentioned, my name is Hillary. I've been working since spring 2018, both as an intern and now as a full-time staff member. My official title is Player Support Coordinator, which means I work heavily with all of our scholarship teams, and I can probably provide a lot of answers about recruitment questions here.
Well, awesome. We've met with our coaches. We've had Overwatch in episode 1, League of Legends episode 2, talking about what they're looking for in elite players, generally the recruiting process. You and I are not experts in game, but we have
Not even
learned over
close.
we have learned over the years there's some really important out of game qualities that we're looking for in players that actually probably are more exclusive than the competitive elements, even though we're very exclusive there. So I want to go through some of those things. So
Yep.
let's just jump right in. So first thing we look for in an elite player are academics. So tell
Mm.
me about what we're looking for academically from a player.
So the first thing that I tell any any inquiry at all into our program is that you have to meet our academic minimums. So you have to be a student at UCI to apply for any of our roles. So I usually send them the website, but in general, it requires a above 4.0 GPA. You have to meet certain requirements in which classes you've taken in high school, or if you're transferred, those classes as well. Um, we look at your GPA for UCs. So again, like they outline specific classes you have to take, and we check the GPAs for those classes. And then in general, your UC application. So making sure you have a good personal statement, that it's been checked by a few people. Hopefully you are, well, at least the time I was applying, we were still going through the well-rounded student principle. So making sure that you're involved in clubs or you have some way to demonstrate that you are a active member on your high school campus and that you are a good fit for the college. That can include esports things now. Our
Mhm.
university especially is very aware about esports as a program, so you can definitely use esports as a topic in your personal statement or an extracurricular.
Exactly. So we're looking for superstar students who have somehow found a way to be elite in-game gamers, but also being exceptional students. As you mentioned, Hillary, our average GPA of incoming students these days is over 4.0. Minimums are below that. And it's different for both people trying to come in as a freshman as well as a transfer student. So certainly check out universities' admissions websites to understand their minimums and understand that you're competing with a lot of smart people who are very talented across a lot of different areas. And majors are a big impactful thing. Do you want to touch upon some of the majors that are kind of have the highest standards or most competitive at UCI at least?
Yeah. So at UCI, we have a few impacted majors. So that'll be impacted means there's a lot of people who are trying to get into that major, both freshman applicants and even students who currently attend UCI trying to transfer in. So be aware of all that competition. Impacted majors include nursing, business econ,
This is
uh,
administration.
business administration.
Yeah.
That's right. Let's see. Computer science is pretty difficult. UCI is right now pretty known for our computer science program and computer game science, as well as all the esports things that we're doing. So that's definitely a really big one. I think business in general is pretty impacted. Um, Biosci is always really hard for people. Anything else?
Engineering. Engineering's hard too.
Engineering.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
engineering's
So
super hard.
so those impacted majors, they will be even more selective than average student GPA. So just imagine, just know you have to be a superstar student to go into one of those majors, but you can be any major at UCI and plan our esports team. So just know the bar is extra high if those are the majors you're committed to. Well, awesome. Um, Something we've talked about with our coaches recently is just kind of player motivation.
Hmm.
Um, so let's talk about what good motivation looks like. I know we have some examples right now, teams that are highly motivated, and we've also struggled with teams and players that are less motivated. So kind of share with folks what those look like.
I think something that we're really proud of is that we can say all of our students are here to get their degree first and foremost.
Hmm.
That's something that we really push. And I know we just finished talking about academics, but again, like we're not necessarily here to get you to play at the pro level. We are here to support you while you're pursuing your undergrad education and playing on a scholarship team. So I think that's always been really great. Students are always super thankful when we, make allowances for academics and try to adjust our schedules to that. So that's my number one thing. I need to know, like, even if you struggled in high school, that's okay, as long as you prove to me that you're committed to improving and that you will do whatever you can to be successful here. I think motivated students also want to learn. Everyone should come in with the understanding that they're a student in multiple areas, not just I'm a student at a college, I'm a student in the game, but in areas of life as well. We have a lot of mentorship, a lot of really great folks here who are willing to teach you literally anything. And we do have people who will, help you on your path to pro if you ask them, like, hey, can you help me with my social presence or whatever. So a willingness to learn, a willingness to like work together and have critical feedback and things like that. I think that's super important. Having your own goals, things that you want to do is helpful. It's not necessary. I understand what it's like to be young and confused and you don't know what you want to do. But at least a desire to find something and want to work towards it. Uh, Really often, we just hear people are interested in esports, but not a lot after that. Uh, that's great. Your passion's great, but it doesn't give us a lot to work with, right? So I think that's super important. And just communication skills, I think, are also so key, like not
Hmm.
just team communication, but communication on like, hey, I have stuff going on in my life, just letting you know, or hey, I'm studying really late for a final, help me wake up tomorrow or something. It's important to communicate with your teammates, communicate with your staff, let people know what's going on, and communicate your issues, right? Team conflict, it's a part of every team, which is fine, but as long as you're willing to talk about it, we can handle it.
Hmm. Hmm. So that's what like general motivation. I also want to touch on like what competitive motivation looks like. We have players that like playing the game. You just talked about like people that love video games. They love the idea of competing. But I think there's also a difference between people who want to be the best, who are committed to that. And part of that means getting good grades, right? Like you can't be on our program if you don't have a high enough GPA. You can't be a part of our program if you can't manage your time, if you're not getting sleep. Um, so I guess from a competitive, like elite competitor standpoint, what are some of like the elite competitors that have been in our program? What do their motivations look like around practice? What are their routines? How much are they playing like on top of classwork and normal practice? Share some of that.
I think it's a hunger for excellence
Mm-hmm.
that really sets people apart. Um, they see areas of improvement and they're not just, okay, that's an area of improvement. They're like, it's a burning desire to improve that, right? They can't just sit with it. So we'll have one of our example players that we talk about all the time, Desker-san. He absolutely is super on top of all of his academics. He has one of the highest GPAs I've ever seen. Um, Almost a 4.0 in engineering, by the way. But he also practices like nonstop, like all day, every day. We're trying to teach him better, more efficient ways of practice. But at the very least, like he's willing to do that, right? He's willing to put in all of that time, all of that effort. He is super organized about his schedule and making sure that he has enough time to dedicate to his academics and to team practice and to his own solo practice. He's just grinding solo queue all day long. And again, engineering is a really hard major, and he's got a really high GPA, and he's able to balance that because he
Mm-hmm.
cares so much. Like
Mm-hmm.
he won't accept anything less than the best from himself. So I think that's absolutely one of the key things. Like you have to have that hunger to be excellent in all these different areas, especially the game. But being a good teammate, being a good student, etc. Um, I think some level of tenacity. I want to say
Mm-hmm.
being a competitor is hard. You have so much to balance, especially as a student. You have your classes, you have your team practice, you have all these other things that we ask of you, along with your social life and your personal life. And stuff goes wrong all the time. And there will be a lot of things that aren't in your control. Maybe your teammate overslept a really great scrim and you couldn't scrim
Mm-hmm.
that team. Um, you have to sort of like be willing to be patient and endure through a lot. Everyone's a project. We're doing our best and trying to improve all these different things, but really like so much patience is required for yourself, for your teammates, for your coaches who are learning how to do this, for us learning how to do this, and just like a willingness to stick through it with us and offer suggestions when you have them and say like, hey, I think this could be a really great way to do something. um, I think I really like it when players are just present too. Like they want to be involved. They want to do different things beyond just the game. Like they're in the arena all the time. They're asking me about like what I'm working on. They're seeing what things they can volunteer for in the high school space. That drive, that ambition really sticks out, and it sets you up for future success.
Cool.
I think that's all off the top of my head.
Cool. Well, things that I took away from your words were, one, a burning desire is really important. I love that term, burning desire, because there are going to be obstacles, and if you don't have that fuel that's pushing you through those challenges, when solo queue sucks, when you're on a loss streak, if you get a bad grade or a personal issue arises, it's going to be hard. And so, one thing we need to see from our players is that burning desire, because we know life's going to throw a lot at you, and we need to know that there's fuel behind you that's going to push you through those challenges. You mentioned balancing time and some of the obstacles people face. I think it's something we continually bump up against, the students that have trouble managing their time, both finding time for grades and I say time for sleep. Those are two things I think people don't budget enough time for. Let's talk about time management. No one's going to be perfect at it when they're 16, 17, 18. But what do you think people can start doing to start thinking about that?
The number one thing you can do is to start using your calendar. We, in general, all use Google Calendar. It's partially because UCI is through Gmail, which is fine. You can use whatever calendar app makes sense for you, whatever task management app, whatever to-do list system works for you, but have a system. Uh, don't just accept like, oh, I'll remember all these things in my head, because that's honestly not realistic, especially as a team player and you have scheduled things every day of the week, plus classes, plus assignments for the future. You start using your calendar. That's totally something you can do at the high school level right now, even though your
Mm-hmm.
days are already pretty blocked off. You can still say like, okay, I'm gonna make sure I sleep at 11 every night. Or if you know it takes you an hour to even like start getting ready for bed, like, okay, I have to have 30 minutes on my phone first and then brush my teeth. You can do that in your schedule too.
Mm-hmm.
um, and I know it sounds like super stringent, and it doesn't have to be, but just identifying time frames for yourself and making sure you generally adhere to it, right? Like making sure you study at least 2 hours a week, making sure you exercise once a day. Even for me, really important is planning my meal times, because I forget all the time. Like all those things are definitely things you can do. If you have personal projects, okay, I'll reserve 3 hours on Saturday to building my D&D character, right? um, it's just super helpful and super organized, and it's just such a key skill. Like you cannot be on this team and not use the calendar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, one thing I've learned to do, and I'm still bad at it, is to actually budget what I need to be working on, even at work, because my calendar will fill up with meetings, and then I have no time to do the work that I created for myself in those meetings. And as a student, like you don't necessarily budget time. Like you might think I have practice at this time, I have class this time, but maybe you didn't think you should put in your calendar when you're going to read a book, like when you're going to study, when you're going to read your assignment or do your homework. Like those are things that need to be put in there, because if you haven't put those in there and you fill it up with other stuff, you're not going to have time left over for some things that are pretty crucial for you to be successful, both in high school and certainly with our program. So, things to be thinking about right now. Time management will help you in life, and I wish I was good at it when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Do you want to add something else, Hillary?
Once they
Oh,
get here, they'll have managers to help out, but
hmm,
it's so key that they learn how to do it on their own as well.
cool. All right, so one final topic I want to talk about, and is near and dear to our program, and I think it's certainly uh, is something that should be a bigger thing in esports and collegiate esports, but are just kind of like language and inclusion and values, and some of the standards that we have for behavior. We've done a lot. We try to do a lot of training. We try to do a lot of education, expose students to some ideas. But let's talk about that and the importance of it, so that you, as a potential recruit or someone interested in being a part of our program, you need to know like this is going to be part of the curriculum and part of what we're talking about. So I'd love for you to talk about some of what you've seen us do and some of the standards we try to set.
Yeah. We try to make it really clear to anyone coming into our program. what our values are. We talk about our pillars literally every first meeting with anyone ever. It's the first thing they hear, and it's something that they hear regularly. I could probably say the pillars in my sleep and do the whole tour spiel. Um, but it's so important because it sets expectations. These are the things that we care about, and they really do influence everything that we do. And we do try to do our part in educating others. I don't consider myself an educator directly, but I do work with students, and I'm in charge of some mentorship, right? So making sure that they're learning life lessons, that they're learning what's important. We see a lot of problems in the esports space around language, around behavior, and a lot of it is born from, just ignorance and people not knowing enough why these things impact others in certain ways, what alternatives they have. So we try to be patient. We try to teach these things. We have really cool trainings like the bystander intervention training that we make mandatory for everyone in the program, players, student staff, etc. We have a inclusion diversity training that we've worked with our partners AnyKey with. Um, we have our summer camps, and so one of them is directed towards high school girls. So we do educating. We let them know, like, hey, these are things that we're doing, these are things that we think are important, these are trainings that we think you will benefit from. At the most that we can do is make sure that these things are available. We try to have really good conversations around them, like a debrief after training, making sure that the players understand one-to-one personally what it should mean to them. um, we're here to provide all these resources, all these thought leaderships. We're here to hopefully teach you to be a good, functioning, polite adult once you graduate. Um, and a lot of that is, yes, through trainings and stuff, but also through just like mentorship and just through being here. We have so many good staff who are talking to players all the time, listening to their problems, listening to these different things. I have a player who talks to me about his girl problems, and I give him advice. um, but that's, I think, one of the really special things here too, is that everyone's just so knowledgeable, so great, and so available to teach these young people how to act, how to be. We have a lot of life experience to share. I have much less than Mark, but we all share it. We do what we can, and we know, like, we remember what it was like to be there, and we help them through it.
Yep. Yeah, and I think one of my biggest points of pride is we've welcomed some players in our program that had maybe some top toxic reputations, or their stream, kind of the language on their stream was inappropriate or offensive or problematic. And when we have interviewed players after tryouts, we let them know, like, look, here's our standards. What we've seen so far does not meet our standards. We're going to give you an opportunity to change, to modify your behavior. And I'll say, every time we've had that conversation, every time a player's raised, like, leveled up their behavior to meet our standards. So I've been really thankful. It feels like we're making a positive difference. And if you're a player, we're going to help work on you as a human in so many different dimensions, including your welcomeness to all people, and treating all people with dignity and respect that they deserve. So thanks for talking about some of that, Hillary. So those are the things I wanted to kind of share with our folks today in this segment, talking about the non-competitive, non-button mashing pieces of being a great esports competitor and athlete. Thank you all for listening. Hillary, thanks so much for joining us today. We hope
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
create more good content in the coming future, but stay safe right now, and we'll be back with another video another time. Take care.
Take care.